Guys, welcome to the channel. Today I am joined by James Robinson.
Hello.
James, welcome to the channel.
How are we?
And the purpose of today's video is to kind of give you a bit of the information that we took from one of the best golf coaches in the world.
I think probably the best.
Probably the best.
It.
If you look at some of the amount of wins he's had on tour with players and majors, is literally phenomenal. I've obviously worked within his academy for the last, up until this year, the last 5 years. So I've had a lot of one-to-one experience with him in terms of shadowing coaching, but also I've had a lesson with him as well, and as have you.
Yeah, very interesting as well, because I actually grew up not far away now from where Pete's driving range is, and as a junior I had lessons off Nick Hooby, who's one of Pete's right-hand men, as well as Mike Walker and a few others down the years. And it's very amazing how even when you go to his academies, you've probably had this ingrained as well, it's amazing how Pete's staff get drip fed that information down into the kind of the pyramid scheme of the pyramid structure of coaches, should I say, and the information is very, very good. You get to the top of the pyramid, being Pete Cowen himself, the information is next level, it's unbelievable. And for me, the way he showed me how to put it into my game, unfortunately it's not quite there yet. Obviously putting the time in the practice is something you guys need to be able to do, but it's amazing how all his coaches have that knowledge of what to do and how to do it.
Yeah, he's amazing. Like, even when we were when he was teaching us a lot of his methods and drills, he would literally be saying, right, when you're teaching kids, do this drill. And then he'd literally pull out a video of him doing it with Thomas Peters the week before. Yeah. And it's like you're literally coaching people that are kids and beginners, this drill that he still coaches to like some of his tour level players. So some of the drills, obviously a lot more drills come to the channel as well, are literally unreal. But what we're going to talk about today is some of the information that we were given on our swings, because we are kind of similar in golf swing in regards to we hit that kind of, I'd say we're of a,
anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
We're kind of a similar era in terms, I don't know about you, but I was kind of taught, drop into the slot, bump the hip, and flip it.
I mean, times had moved on when I came to the golf scene, in fairness, but no, I'm only joking.
You're a little bit younger than me.
It was very much, it was get that club in, you want that toe up to the sky, and then turn your hands as fast as possible, and that's how you would release it. Some people still get taught like that today, and it gives me the heebie-jeebies, because that's why some players from our era really struggle with club face control. The manipulation of that club head has to be so on point, and that's why, you might be good at shaping shots on your day, you might be good at hitting the artistry of shots, but being a machine and having that, just making sure the club face is square all the way through, meaning very little can go wrong, is something that's quite difficult to do, especially if you're trying to do it when you're 37 years of age.
Yeah, let me tell you. I think one of the quotes I got from Pete, I'll never forget it. He said, "Tour pros are the greatest manipulators on the planet." Now, I don't think he meant just in their personal life, so I think he just meant on the golf course. But also, I think he was basically saying they are like magicians. They are like the 0.01%, as we already know, but they are literally magicians because they have an unbelievable understanding of the golf swing and being able to manipulate it. The master manipulators. What Pete's method is more trying to take out as much manipulation as humanly possible. So what was one of the first things that you kind of worked with him on?
So one of the things was, and I'll talk to this kind of camera down the line here, or in front should I say, because down the line is that one. I'll talk to this camera just in front here, because one of the big things was about the grip. So my grip had very little opposition in it. There was no opposition, it was very much just strong in the left hand, and then the hands would just roll open here straight away on the way back. So from there, the club would also be inside, and then I believe he said I swung it round my arse, which was a very nice way of putting it, to be honest, because I'd say it's even worse than that. From there, I'm definitely trying to manipulate that club all the way through the golf swing. And if you go and watch my video back, it's really, really interesting how Pete gets into this. So you would have more opposition in the hands. You'd feel like you squeeze that grip on the way back. So you're really trying to get those hands working in. And from there, you set the club up. So a drill that you would have is ringing the towel. So if you had a towel in your hands, you'd try and squeeze those forearms together, and that's exactly what you're doing into that grip. Now actually my forearms started hurting a little bit. They were aching a bit towards the end, but if you get into that and then you think, right, from there I can set that club in a much better position, and Andy's going to talk to you a little bit about setting the shoulders and kind of making sure the shoulders are set for the shot that you're wanting to play, because that's a huge factor of not manipulating the club and hitting the shots you want to play. One of the best lines I heard Pete say was, "Is it fading?" Of course it is. Because he knew that if I get the shoulders in the right position, the club face is going to be set anyway.
Yeah.
So the swing path has to do what you're trying to get it to do, and the ball's going to fade or draw. Now, interestingly, I actually had a lesson with David Ledbetter a little bit later down the line as well. Very, very similar, but getting across in a totally different way. So I'd still try and get those hands working in an opposed manner. But what David tried to get me to do was keep this shoulder a little bit more kind of tucked in, keeping it a little bit more connected on the way back. So what we call a takeaway, so a takeaway in the golf swing, you think, like we said earlier, right, get that toe pointing up to the sky, and then I'm in a good position to set it. David said that's totally the wrong thing to do. You don't want to be taking the club away, because if you take the club away, you might take it outside, you might take it inside. We're going to move the club away. We're going to use the big body parts here. He actually said I had many big body parts, plenty of mass, I believe he said, so thanks for that, David. I went to Lake Nona that day and shot about 100. So
they are charmers, aren't they?
They are
one's saying
charmers.
you're swinging it around your arse, and one's saying you've got big body parts.
In fair, I might just quit now, to be fair. But if I keep that left arm and the left shoulder in particular a little bit more connected, you can see now how that club face is actually matching my spine angle here. So if I was upright, the club would be like this, and if I was a little bit more over, the club would match the spine angle the whole time. From here, it's way easier to load the club where you do want to get it, and then Andy's going to talk to you about how to load it into the shoulders. It's a phenomenal way of coaching, a phenomenal way of hitting the golf ball, because if your club face is square throughout the entire motion to that ball, or to the arc should I say, then you've got much more likelihood of hitting straighter golf shots where you want them. And for me, it really was a little bit game changing. All I need to do is work on it a bit more.
All you've got to do is work on it.
And I think the way I've explained that there sort of speaks volumes about how the guys have explained it. I've not gone into any of the depth of what Pete or David would, Dave as I like to call him. Big Dave, but I can explain it. So if you truly understand something, you should be able to explain it to a decent degree.
That is very, very true. I think, like you going back to what Pete was saying in regards to your takeaway, he's basically encouraged your right hand to be the one that's to kind of equal out what your left hand was doing. The left hand was obviously fanning the club on the inside. The right hand say, well, equal, opposite. So work equally as hard as the left, but opposite to what it's doing, which kind of helps you kind of stabilize the face. And once that face is stable, as James was saying on the takeaway, technically it should be easier to maintain that stable position, and then we reduce manipulation. Reduce manipulation, we become better golfers. And every golfer on the planet manipulates. There's no way of getting around that. We all do it to an extent. The higher handicappers and the golfers that are more inconsistent will have more manipulations, and that's why on your day you'll hit some amazing shots, or you'll go par and follow it up with a 9, because the manipulation didn't quite work as well. The golf swing didn't really change. The manipulation wasn't as good, and that's what we're trying to reduce on. So going from takeaway then, if you take your setup, get into that takeaway position for us. In terms of getting up to the top of the backswing, we were talking about kind of loading up of the shoulders, and the way we were really taught was to kind of really pull back in the hips, and that's how James ended up a little bit flat with obviously the takeaway position. A little bit around these backside. What I kind of coach for a lot of people now is the positioning of this right elbow, and just bringing the forearms in a little bit closer, and then as you're starting to work the arms more with a bit more height, that's how you start to feel the loading of the shoulders. You start to feel a little bit more pressure. There's a lot more depth you can get into. You're right there, take a break.
Thank you, I'll go fall over then.
Have a drink. There's a lot more depth you can get into in terms of the angles of the shoulders and how you're going to get up there in regards to making draw and fade, and that is like, whoa.
Very interesting, I must say.
Mind-blowing.
Before you go into the shoulders, one of the big comments I got on my video was, will somebody please explain how you load the shoulders for a fade on a draw? Because a lot of people don't get that, and it's quite difficult, and he's going to go into it because he knows it a lot better than I do.
I struggle with it, to be fair.
But certainly getting the club into a position that's consistent here with a consistent club face makes it so easier to get those shoulders where you want them.
Yeah, I think Pete always said, everyone presumes that he's trying to coach golfers to fade the ball, but really if you get the delivery position correct, which is basically this position on the way back down, you get that delivery position correct, you can have the ball in draw or fade position.
Yeah.
And again, if you get the club on the inside, draw, outside, fade. But what is consistent throughout is the way the club's releasing through the ball, or the way your body's releasing through impact and kind of stabilising the face. That's the one he always used with me, stabilising face, because he just called me a big flipper.
Flipper, yeah.
He called me a big old school flipper.
Well,
he was like slot, bump, flip.
You've been called worse, to be fair.
I have been called worse, to be fair. He was like slot, bump, flip. You're all the bloody same. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate. Yeah. Thanks, Pete.
Cheers, Pete. Appreciate that. Right, so if you jump into your little takeaway position for us. So you've got a nice little combo of like of Ledbetter and Cowen. I like that.
Really interesting as well. So to get here, David actually gave me a drill where he said, right, if you do your normal takeaway, so I do that, and then move 90 degrees, you wouldn't start with the club there, would you? Correct. So if I do the correct move away, and it had a little device actually that goes on the shaft, and I think he might actually be releasing that soon, but keep that shoulder kind of tucked in, move 90 degrees, all of a sudden that club's bang in the right position.
I love
so,
that.
Yeah.
I do love that. I'm a big fan of that one. Really good visual, really easy visual, stuff that you can do at home as well.
Yeah.
I think dry drills are like the best, aren't they? Like just understand, you get a bit more.
Way better than wet drills.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, good days of dad now, isn't it? Dad jokes are out, eh? Waiting 32 years for these ones. Right, so you could jump into that takeaway. There we go. Love that. Are you still getting there now? Were you in that position for the last 14 hours of our vlog?
No, I was there. Definitely there.
Right, so if we swap places, I'm going to show you from that position how, from there, coaching to get to the top of the backswing, because a lot of this depends on this trail arm position, because a lot of people get that trail elbow out in that direction. So we get into a nice angle here, and then the elbow goes in behind, and that's how you get into that kind of flatter position, or forearms have got a huge gap between them. So we're going to try and keep everything a little bit more connected from that takeaway. Trail elbow just going to stay a little bit flexed. So even at setup, trail elbow is going to be ever so slightly flexed. And then from that position, as we start to rotate up to the top of the backswing, one of the key thoughts for me was keeping those elbows as close as possible. And that way then I feel the loading here. Loading really is just a good technical term for tension. Feels tight, feels bloody
coiled
tiring.
Spring.
Yeah. It's really you do feel powerful. That tension, as much as it might hurt, is power. That's what you got to try and feel it. When it feels tense, it's powerful. So from that takeaway position, the trail elbow is already folded. We rotate that, and we get the height there. So we get a nice height to the top of the backswing for the decent angle of attack. But also you're going to feel like this trail elbow is more kind of down the front to the right side of your rib cage. Okay, and that's for me there, that's the loading of the shoulders. Then it becomes a lot easier to bring it back down into that delivery position. So if you can get from here, trail elbow working up inside, trail elbow working next to the lead elbow is a feeling. Then on the way down, the transition comes a bit more in front of the body. Then you've got that face angle, exactly where James started it. And how do you get into impact from there?
Turn your chest some.
Just turn.
Bang.
Should we try and hit one?
Go on then.
Go on then.
I'll go first.
So in theory, it's the easiest way to hit a golf shot. Oh.
Did it fade?
That was lovely. No, it was a nice little draw. You delivered.
It faded.
Did it?
It faded. I was waiting for, of course it did, son.
Of course it did. Right, I'll fade it. But remember, it doesn't have to fade. Inside, there we go, right.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, look at that. I don't know if it was a push or a fade, but I'm going to take it because it felt pure. And I wish I'd been doing that for the previous 14 holes.
I think if we'd have done that, because the key here as well is taking it on the golf course. It's not just having a good looking golf swing, it's not just hitting good shots in your practice on the range, it's doing it on the course. And that's where, for me, having a couple of drills that you can do, dry drills as Andy called them, can massively help you improve out here where it counts.
Yeah, I mean, my favourite one, hold the club underneath, pop it under your chest. As you trail arm, let the arm just kind of sit in and just be a little bit more flexed. From here, that's going to be the movement of the trail arm, okay? From that position, club is pointing down the target line. You're going to rotate and you're going to get the club, oh yeah, parallel to the ground still. Feel that in this, you can feel that in the right shoulder.
I can feel it, yeah.
You feel that? Club's in there, and then on the way down, into impact, lower body's gone, club's back down the target line. It's one of my favourites, that.
Lovely.
Good for feel. What's your favourite?
I quite like this one.
Yeah, I like
Because
that.
if you do it enough times, you get dizzy.
Just imagine. Then you got to try and walk in a straight line after 10.
And then hit one.
Guys, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Drop in the comment section below. If any questions on all of this, you have to ask them, because the more questions you ask, the more you understand. As James was saying, the better you get at doing it and also transferring it onto the golf course as well.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers for having us, pal.
Cheers, pal.
Take care. See you soon.